Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I would like to answer some of the important questions that you have lingering about Modern Warfare, more specifically how much has changed since the alpha and the beta. The map I'm showing off right now is the medium-sized Russian village multiplayer map, but I have a few others that I'll show off as well as this video continues, so keep your eyes open for that. But I'm mostly just going to be answering as many of these important questions as possible, starting off with question number 1. Is the lighting fixed or improved at all? Because this was a big issue in the beta. In the Modern Warfare beta, there was a major issue of enemies hiding in dark corners. There were dark corner McDougals everywhere, depending on your monitor, depending on your contrast, depending on how you set your brightness in game. They could be totally invisible if, and optimistically, just very difficult to see and overlook if they're sitting still, but a lot of times they were literally like Alex Jones conspiracy level shadow people. It also didn't help that the red names showed up to the right of enemies, so sometimes you would see them in like past net games where the red name is centered. You would try to spray the name and you would hit nothing but air. And I think this was a major problem because it rewarded shield camping and it made the game feel unfair. And while I was at this event, I talked to several developers about it, and they said that they knew that this was an issue. They were aware of it, they got the feedback during the beta, they saw the gameplay, they played at home on different monitors and other stuff they hadn't been able to do, and they realized that it was a problem. The reason that they did it to begin with, or the only reason this was in the game, was an attempt at realism. Realism was a fundamental design goal for every aspect of Modern Warfare, and when it came to multiplayer, one of their initial decisions was to do fair lighting or real lighting, and they went with real on the lighting and just about everything else that they could, so they kind of expected that people would hide in the dark, but not quite this bad. Now, the answer to this question is good news. They have greatly improved this for the final release. It's not quite fixed in the traditional sense, and that it can happen. However, there has been a massive improvement, so like 95% of these instances will go away. The dev team said what they did is a lighting pass on every single multiplayer map, and I don't remember the exact verbiage that they used, so I'm not going to try not to say something incorrect, but I do know what they added in was a new lighting balance system. They sort of built some piece of software or some sort of lighting system that would measure the highs and lows in bright and dark on these various maps, and they adjusted it such that there were different tolerances for how dark and how bright different areas can get, with the goal of balancing them out and making them pretty much always visible outside of a few extreme circumstances. The goal is that it should never be impossible to see somebody in the dark. Yes, hiding in the dark can be an effective tactic. Yes, it can make it harder, but it should not be absolutely impossible to see them like it was in the beta. The red names aren't too different. They still pop up on the right-hand side of the player, but there's now a sort of diamond-shaped thing that is always above their heads, so when in doubt, just aim below the diamond. From my time playing this game and playing maps that I'd already played during the beta, the change is noticeable. It significantly improves the game, and I'm happy with it. Some of the developers also talked about future maps moving forward being designed with this in mind, so they won't even have to use the fancy lighting system. They're just going to be more careful about lighting the maps to make them playable. Question number 2. Were there any improvements to that horrible netcode that Battle Nonsense discovered? For those of you that are unaware, a network engineer and YouTuber who goes by the name Battle Nonsense did a big video on this topic. He's based out of Germany, if I remember correctly, and he tested everything on PC. But this, he really put it through tests on a level that even I don't do. But what he discovered is that Call of Duty Modern Warfare has massive delays when it comes to information transfer. He doesn't necessarily just directly measure ping, but rather how long it takes for the other player to actually start feeling the damage that you deal to them on their end. And the delays were huge. They were bigger than any other COD game, and I think maybe bigger than any game you'd ever measured. And what it led to is a lot of instant deaths for the players and a lot of really fast kills in other scenarios. The game, at least on PC, because he could not test console, also inaccurately displayed ping for some reason. I have no idea why the PC version of this game couldn't get ping right, but it couldn't. And the overall opinion was that the lag was not good. As a matter of fact, it was quite bad. And this is one of the few times where the more technical information that we got directly lined up with what the community was experiencing and feeling. I personally had laggy games too sometimes, and when I did, they were truly miserable. I felt like I was back in 2009 playing on my coax cable connection. And the answer for this is, once again, good news. Major changes were made to the netcode and implemented, so they should be good to go for launch. The developers said that they implemented 2 new features to the netcode and improved on some existing features. I wish I could tell you what these were exactly, but my memory of this event is a little bit fuzzy. It was over a week ago now, and there was a lot going on at the time, so I don't remember it perfectly, and I don't want to misquote people and say things that aren't true, but I do remember they were basically two kinds of opposite systems. One was supposed to keep kills relatively quickly so you don't have those marshmallow bullets, and the other one was supposed to make it to where you don't get those super bullets and you die in 1 or 2 shots. They are supposed to have about the same amount of delay and about the same amount of feels for killing somebody versus you dying. Supposedly, this is also one of the very first games ever where both of these systems are implemented at the same time. Most games just choose one or the other. It favors either the person taking or receiving damage, just kind of depending. But in this case, they tried to do both. For our early access that Activision hooked us up with, we played on a very closed network. We were all in one building, and we were kind of sort of technically connected online in matchmaking, but we were all just bouncing off of one server that they were running, and it was basically like playing LAN, except we had to use the building's internet to verify the PlayStation accounts and stuff. So I don't think that's a fair comparison to how it's going to be for you playing online at home. And one of the things that does scare me about this, even though the overall news is good that changes are being made, is that this was not tested in the beta. This particular configuration that we're going to get when the game goes live at launch has not been tested in the beta. I'm sure they tested it in the office, but the office and in the wild out with the public are totally different things. They always are, and I have no idea what this will do lag-wise when it gets out into the greater internet and where people have various weird connections and misreported locations and all sorts of crazy stuff. I have no idea what's going to happen. Hopefully it still works good. Hopefully they know what they're doing. But anytime you add unknowns to something, it can be bad. Question number 3, were the spawns improved? The beta had bad spawns. Let's just be straightforward about that. The spawns weren't great on hardly any mode. I guess 2v2 worked, really, but I had a lot of bad spawns in the beta. I had a lot of questionable ones. It could get really frustrating sometimes. Yeah, and I'm not even including the ground war where you spawn on teammates. Like, I get that can be bad, but just almost every game had rough spawns, and it could be abysmal when you got spawn trapped in the beta. The answer on this one, in my opinion, is bad news. There are still plenty of bad spawns in this game. The Infinity Ward devs that were on site said that they saw the spawn problems in the beta and attempted to rework them and improve upon them from the beta experience, and they promised that this build should have better spawns. But it didn't. At least in my opinion, not by much. Maybe on some of the maps that were very, very heavily trafficked and played in the beta, like Grozna and whatever, it was a little bit better. But in general, the spawns really weren't better. They, especially on the maps that we hadn't seen before, I could tell that they hadn't been thoroughly vetted by, more veteran COD players. They could still get quite rough. You could still get spawn locked. There were a couple of times where chopper gunners or AC-130s was just killing me in my spawn over and over. I would spawn in like the same little alley. It was just like spawning in a kill box, and I would live for like a quarter of a second and die. So there were plenty of rough spawns for me in Modern Warfare. So I guess this one still sucks. This one's still not fixed. I hope it gets fixed as the game continues. The more things that get fixed, the better off for me and for everybody else. So hopefully the IW devs work on that one. Question number 4 is, will I still die fast? Or perhaps a different way to ask it, did they nerf some of the guns? Well, as many of you remembered from the Modern Warfare beta, it was a game of getting picks. You died really, really fast in this game most of the time. By the time that you took a shot or two, you were probably done. And in this respect, it was a lot like Modern Warfare 2 because almost all of the guns were very lethal in their own way. There weren't a lot of actual trash tier guns. And some people kind of like this. I really didn't mind it. I'd been playing some more aggressive games like Siege and stuff where you can kill people quickly. Others found it to be very annoying, very not COD-like. I guess it kind of depends a little bit on where you started playing COD as well. So the question is, what changed? And the answer is, not much. The Infinity Ward team seems very happy with the time to kill, with keeping the guns lethal. You still die pretty fast. I think the raw TTK values aren't actually that much different than other COD games, but they do feel fast for whatever reason. Infinity Ward seems to have no desire to approach Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4 level of slow or ridiculously slow time to kill with chunky guns and 150 health and that kind of stuff. They seem to be very happy with just letting their guns kill quick, and I talked to some of the multiplayer designers and they said that their philosophy is that inevitably some weapons will be top tier. There will be competitive weapons, there will be some weapons that are just overall better than others, but no gun should be trash. Even some of the older, goofier, like World War II guns that the insurgents are using or whatever, that aren't as good as modern ones, obviously, they're still not trash. If you hit people with them, they're going to die. So everything in the game kills pretty pretty quickly. Kind of like in real life. Well, I wanted to say everything kills quickly like in real life, but in real life, most of the time when you shoot people, they're non-lethal shots. People run away and bleed to death later. Question number 5. Is there a combat record? This is a feature that's been sorely missing from many multiplayer games, and the answer is yes. Ours wasn't really accessible at the time, but I could see that there was a combat record and options, and you will be able to do a lot of stat tracking type things. Question number 6 is, were there multiplayer challenges? And the answer is yes. I think I already showed this off in a different video. Multiplayer had daily, weekly, monthly, long-form challenges for various cosmetic loot or experience. And some of them were actually quite intense challenges that will take you a very long time to complete, and they generally seem to want, by they I mean Infinity Ward, want to reward grinders. If you are an ultra grinder and you like to play a lot, you're going to have a lot to play for. And the final question of today, lucky number 7, did you get a chance to try cross progression? What's the leveling like? Yes, I didn't get to prestige, so I have no idea what happens there, but basically you gained levels for everything, just like they advertised. The first thing we did is a lot of 2v2. I leveled up very quickly just from playing 2v2. Multiplayer leveled up fast. Spec Ops, I got a massive level boost after I beat a level. I just got a ludicrous amount of XP, which was really good, so you do level up from Spec Ops, but oddly not Campaign. For whatever reason, Campaign did not give me any levels toward my multiplayer gear or the gun attachments or anything, and I'm going to assume this is a glitch because it said everything was supposed to level you up, and I swear I never got one drop of XP from playing Campaign, so I'm not exactly sure what's up with that. Hopefully it's not like that in the final game. I'd like to just beat the campaign and have a few multiplayer levels already good to go. And guys, that is all for this video. I hope that you found it informative, helpful, useful in some way. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.